So by the end of this video, you are going to believe me. You're not going to have any more arguments left. You're going to say, oh, that's how you get to Tesla being the largest market cap company in the world by the end of next year. In fact, how come it wouldn't be happening sooner? That's kind of what you'll be saying in the comments below, like, won't Wall Street get it even sooner? Well, they might, but let's just say that I'm assuming that maybe it will take everything that I'm going to talk about happening, which is only what Elon says is going to happen, in order for Tesla to be the largest market cap company in the country. And this will, well, anyway, let's get into. So I'm going to start, though, with the setup. I'm going to start with the things that are going to happen in the next 62 days. Let's talk about the next 62 days because this sets up what's going to happen in the next year. 2026, which I've been talking about since April of 2022. Seems crazy. This is 3 years now, almost exactly 3 years since I started the channel. Over 6 million views, over 3,000 videos. And it's been great because of you guys. All right, let's get into it. Let's start here. We'll start with, there's only 60 days till the end of the year, and I'm going to add 2 because you know why, what happens on the 2nd. So first we got the shareholders meeting and the vote, and that's coming up this next Thursday. I will be flying across the country, not to Texas, but rather to see my kids in Charlotte. But I'm sure I'll be paying close attention. Hopefully this airline, I didn't check to see whether it had Starlink or not. I sure hope so. Anyway, the shareholders meeting and vote. We've got the vote, which that's going to be passed for sure, but it will eliminate all doubt. Okay, it'll take that off the table. It'll no longer be an overhang. That's very important because to the extent that anybody thinks there's a chance that this is an overhang, we want it to go away. So we get the overhang out of the way. The other thing that's going to happen is there could be announcements of things, but Elon has done it again. He's done a couple of long, 4.5 hours yesterday of All In podcast and the Rogan podcast, and gave us a lot of meat on those podcasts. And so the meat is something we'll talk about today. So then the other thing that could happen next Thursday is Optimus. So I think we're going to see Optimus displayed in some new ways. Robert Scoble, the guy who wrote the foreword to the AI Rising, Robert Scoble posted just a little while ago that he and Elon had some emails back and forth today, and Elon said he believes that Optimus would be capable of rolling a cigar at this point, but not anything smaller. You get the gist. All right. So anyway, I think they will have some demonstration, some kind of a demonstration, some kind of, present, like there'll be Optimus standing around or maybe doing the popcorn or whatever it is, but there will be something hopefully that gives us yet a little more. Now, remember, it's still going to be 2.5. It's not going to be version 3 because version 3 is still a couple of months away. All right. So those are 2 things, and there's a very good possibility. I've said it already. I believe that by 3 days after, 3 business days, 3 stock market days after this meeting, we will be at all-time high or higher, maybe at 500 or so. All right, the number 2 thing that's probably going to happen in November is a decision by the Supreme Court of Delaware, and I think it's going to go our way. I'm hard-pressed to see how there's not political pressure, as well as common sense. That doesn't mean it's going to end up going our way, but we'll see. But if it does go our way, that should be a boost to the stock. Again, I don't see it being a huge boost, but there is a financial benefit to the company by a lot if this thing does go the right way. And so that possibly could add a couple of points to the stock. Going the other way, a decision to uphold the lower court. I would sell my stock in Delaware, not necessarily in Tesla, but that's probably already baked in as my guess. All right. Now, what we got from Elon yesterday on the Joe Rogan show, no, it's probably the All In podcast. He said that, and this is kind of a confirmation, but 8 to 10 cities will be added between now and the end of the year with safety riders. And that will be a big deal. As those are added, more and more cities with with actual, cars on the ground with safety riders, that should continue to stimulate the stock. Okay. And then number four, safety riders will come out of in Austin and San Francisco. That was news yesterday. So safety riders coming out, as almost everybody has been talking about that. Even Gary Black says when the safety riders come out, that is a stimulus. That is going to have an impact. So when they take out the first safety riders, and if they take them out of both at the same time or one and then the other, however that works, it's going to be a big deal. Also announced was that Elon's goal for the end of the year is to have 15 cars taking fares between those two locations. So Austin and San Francisco, 500 in Austin, 1,000 in San Francisco by the end of the year. And we'll talk about that a lot more in my proof case for what's going to happen over the next 12 months, 14 months. Number six, we will add, so then there's the quarter four data that will come out on January 2nd. So that's 62 days away. And I think it's going to be surprisingly good. I really think that we'll get more data this week and next week, and maybe I'll start changing my mind. But for right now, I think I'm still talking about 500,000 cars and possibly 17 gigawatt hours of energy. Number seven, we again making news yesterday. Elon says the Roadster will be out in the end of this year, or at the latest, I think he said January. So within the next 3 months. So, and he says it'll be the greatest reveal of all times, the greatest product demonstration of all time. That the tech on it is just absolutely out of this world. And we've had I could go into a lot of details on what I believe has already been said about the tech in terms of cornering with these rocket thrusters and the ability for it to levitate. Anyway, we'll see what's going to happen there. But I think it will be an eye opener and might move the stock a little bit. There is a fair piece of change to be made off of those Robotaxis, those Roadsters, even if they're, I forget how many, 10 or 20,000 is all they're going to sell the next year, whenever they come out. All right, number 8, we've got unsupervised. Now, I don't know why I got this so low down on the list, but that I have been pushing that unsupervised is the big deal. And unsupervised, I think it's going to be coincidental with the Robotaxis. I don't think you're going to have one without the other. So I think when we get unsupervised, we'll get Robotaxi with no safety rider. If we get no safety rider, then we'll get. Now it might only be in Austin and San Francisco because Elon did say it might be regional at first, but I think that happens before the end of the year. And that, again, I'm not making this up. This is what Elon said is going to happen. And then finally, FSD 14.2. I believe will come out in that same time period, the next 2 months. And this will take out all of the wrinkles and all the little things that we've been fighting with regard to 14.1.4. Maybe there'll be another 0.5 and 0.6 and whatever between now and when 14.2 comes out. But slowly but surely, they're taking out these very small minor situations. Anyway, so, okay, let me spell it out again. I believe that the stock should be much, much higher right now, given on-the-ground realities and likely outcomes. Now, the thing that is holding us back from much higher values can only be the evaluation of those likely outcomes. So, is it a 50-50 chance that Elon gets to 1 million Robotaxis earning fares by the end of 2026? That's not my number. That's his number. What are the chances of that? Is it 50-50? Is it 20% chance and 80% that he won't? Is it only 10% chance that he will and 90% chance that he won't? What about a lower number? What about 500,000 by then? 50-50? 25-75? I don't, what is the number? Elon says he thinks he can get to 1 million by the end of next year. That's what he's saying right now. So what are the odds? That's the one, I think that's the biggest question. Number 2, though, what about the same question by the end of 2027? Can he get to 1 million? Can Tesla get to 1 million robotaxis? I'm talking about fleet robotaxis, not even talking about the Airbnb style, as he calls them. But can we get to 1 million fleet robotaxis by the end of 2027? What are the odds of that? Does that make it up to 50-50? Is that higher than 50-50? Lower? I think that's the biggest component and the biggest question. All right. But let's look at the components, because the odds of the safety rider coming out and significant increases in vehicles on the road, what are the odds of that? Okay. So do we think the safety rider is going to come out by the end of the year? Is that 50-50? Is it 75-25? Elon says it's going to happen. He says it's only not happened yet. He says we can do it. We can do it tomorrow. He says, but we're having an abundance of caution. So I've said for a long time, you may have heard me say this before, this is 100% up to Elon. And it might be partially up to his engineers. So I think the engineers are saying, we need a little more data and we need a little more, we'd like to tweak this and this before you do it. But I think it's really up to Elon. He's the one that wants to have the sense that this is not going to end up in a headline. All right. Now, the second part of this is, what are the odds of wide regulatory approval? And I spent a lot of time on that a couple of days ago. It appears that the US government currently has some regulations from 2022 that allow Tesla to make as many cars without steering wheels and pedals as they want, and they can be deployed. Now, that's still up in the air in terms of whether that's factual or not, but I think it is. And I think that the US government is going to do everything they can to help this company. Once they can see the reality on the ground, I think they're going to be going out of their way to make sure that Elon and the United States is far ahead on this subject. All right, and then what are the odds of ramping Cybercab, which you don't actually see? In other words, the next version here, the Cybercab. And I don't know what's in question there, but let's just say, is that 50-50 that he'll have Cybercabs on the road in the second quarter? I mean, actually producing them. He says it'll be the fastest ramp in history. He says they'll be able to make a lot of Cybercabs. But I don't know what the questions are. I don't even know what questions to ask. But let me know in the comments below. Do you believe that's 50-50? Is that 75-25? Is that 90% certain that there will be Cybercabs being produced and ramped up in the second quarter? I believe those are the only three questions that we need to ask ourselves about, are we going to get there or not? So then number 4, unsupervised alone is also a massive potential earning machine for 2026. You have to think about this. Again, it's pretty much hand in hand. If you get one, you're going to get the other. And we'll see if we can get to unsupervised as well. Now, today, I'm not going to talk at all. In terms of this analysis, I'm not going to talk at all about Optimus. Optimus, of course, is the biggest deal that there is. Elon's reiterated it. It's the largest product in history. I'm not going to talk about Optimus. All right. Number 2, we're only going to look at the numbers for the Tesla fleet, only the Tesla fleet. But I'm going to look at it this time in a slightly different way. So if those of you who see me do numbers lots of times before, you're going to go, but Randy, we've already seen your numbers on this. Well, I'm going to do them slightly differently this time. And hopefully, for those of you who've still been doubting, I will convince you, but I'll be listening for those comments, looking for those comments to see if I've got you finally believing it. So some of you are going to look at my shared screen here. You're going to look at this spreadsheet and you go, Randy, couldn't you have, gotten Cern or your great artist down in the Philippines, Sarah? Couldn't you have gotten her, somebody, to make this look more beautiful? Well, yeah, probably, but I'm sorry, you're just going to have to go along with me because I have no artistic capability. Anyway, let's start out here. Let's start with the cost. All right, the cost is 40 cents a mile. That's what it costs to run this thing, and that includes deadheading. That includes insurance. That includes overhead. That includes cleaning. It includes everything. And multiple people, including Elon Musk, have done this. And almost everybody concludes, and Elon Musk says that it'll eventually be under 20 cents. Now that's a cyber cab as opposed to a Model 3 or a Model Y. And it's going to be after they get some of the kinks out, whatnot. So I'm going to go with 40 cents a mile, which is going to be a high number. Okay. And it's important. I'm not important. It could be higher. It could be 50 cents a mile. It wouldn't really change things very much. And if we went down to 25 cents a mile, it wouldn't really change things very much because the issue is all going to be on the revenue side. So I'm going to use $2 a mile. And I'm going to use $2 a mile because I don't think Elon's going to leave money on the table. I just don't think that's his inclination. He's going to go to the market price, and he's going to be very good at figuring that out. And so we're going to be looking at maybe more than $2 a mile because Waymo is actually charging more than Uber. I don't know about the rest of the country, but I can tell you in California, I'm paying $3 a mile to drive in California, to take an Uber in California, and sometimes more than that. So, and in fact, I've stopped taking them and started looking for other ways to get around because I don't want to pay $3 a mile for an Uber. So that gives us a profit of $1.60 a mile. And then what about how about the miles driven? Well, miles driven would be 250 miles a day. That seems to be the average. We got lots and lots of data on that. This is not a guess. Uber, Lyft, Waymo, there's a ton of data. Taxi cabs, so much data on this. So 250 miles a day, I think is fair. Profit, $400 a day. Okay, so that's good. Say, $500 a day. Doesn't sound like a very big number. Okay, now let's go to 1,500 cars. Well, that's what Elon said he'd have by the end of this year, 1,500 cars. Well, what does that end up looking like? Well, that's a total daily of $600,000 per day per Tesla. $600,000 per day. I think I did the multiplication right. 400 times 1,500, 600,000, right? 600,000 a day. Well, then if that's true, that per quarter, that'd be 54 million. And per year, that'd be 216 million in sales with 1,500 cars. Well, okay, what if we get to 15,000? Now, why 15,000? That would be, we add those other cities, the other 8 to 10 cities, which will be by the end of the first quarter, all of those should have the safety riders out. And so we have 8 to 10 more cities. And I'm saying if we have 8 to 10 cities and we've increased the numbers in San Francisco and Austin, we could be at 15,000 fairly easily. So 15,000 by the end of the first quarter, that would be $540 million a quarter of earnings, not revenues, of earnings. And the per year on that would be 2.16 billion. Now you're looking at 60 cents, 70 cents a year of additional earnings. Call that 15 cents a quarter. On a quarter, we just had a quarter with only 50 cents of earnings. So that's a pretty substantial increase at 15,000. Now the numbers get crazy because at 150,000, which is only 10% of what Elon is shooting for the end of next year, 150,000. Now you got 5.4 billion per quarter, or $21.6 billion per year, which is about double what Tesla has ever made in a quarter, or in other words, a total of triple. Take what you've already made, the 10 billion you're making, and add another 21. So you're $31 billion a year. All of a sudden, you're up to $10 a share times 60. Times 100,000. So you only need to get to 150,000 cars before you've already, generally speaking, convinced remember, this is only the cars. This is only Robotaxi. This is only the fleet. It's not even anything. No. So just with the Robotaxi, you're up to a level which would justify $1,000 a share easily. Okay. But it does include, for that particular thing that we just went through, that would include all the rest of what Tesla does there. All right. So then when we get to 1 million, then things really go crazy. So that's the number for Elon for the end of next year. But let's say it takes him till first quarter of 2027, or maybe the end of 2027. But let's just look at the number. You're talking about $35.6 billion a quarter, $142 billion a year. Now then, what if you get to 2 million? Now, is that the end of 2027? Is that end of 2028? Get to 2 million, now you're at $71 billion a quarter, $285 billion a year with only 2 million vehicles, not including the rest of the revenue from the other stuff Tesla's going to do. Cut it in half. I don't care. Make it 140 billion by the end of 2027. I'm fine with that. All right. Let's go ahead now and let's just move over here. And we're going to take a look at the top companies in the country in terms of their earned income. So you got Google at the top at 124. You've got Apple at 112. You've got Microsoft at 104. You've got Saudi Aramco at 95. You've got Nvidia at 86, Amazon at 76, and Berkshire Hathaway at $63 billion a year. Wait a minute, wait a minute. So you mean to tell me, Randy, that with 1 billion, I'm sorry, with 1 million robotaxis in the fleet, we would have more earnings from that 1 million, just those 1 million, not the rest of what Tesla's going to do. 1 million in the fleet, more earnings than any of the top seven, well, higher than Alphabet, which is right now at 124 billion. So if that's true, and then if you get to 2 million, now you've doubled that. And in fact, now you're at the place where you're talking about the first three in the list here combined. Okay. And if you get to 3 million, et cetera. Okay, you get the point. So, and again, if these, maybe by the time they get to 1 million cars or 2 million cars, they've had to reduce it to $1 a mile instead of $2 a mile. I don't know, or $1.50, $1.75. So there's a lot of moving parts when you're getting up to that level. But remember, we haven't added in the amount of money coming in from the Airbnb vehicles or Optimus or blah, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, so I don't know if I've convinced you yet. But let's go ahead and look at the rest of my story. So, all right. I want to know if I made a math error. Sometimes I make a math error. I don't think I did. Is there a question? Maybe Tesla can't get their own fleet of 1 million cars by Q4 of next year. Well, if they wanted to, they could. In fact, as discussed in other places, they could literally stop making consumer cars in the US in order to build that fleet. Or they could import them from from Germany, or import them from China and even pay the tariff because the profit would still be enormous. Well, okay, I think you can begin to see the payoff if they build their fleet as fast as they possibly can. The numbers are astronomical. They make NVIDIA's great profit margins look like, so much, it's okay. They're all right, but Tesla's will be crazier. All right, some of this was none of this. I was all doing this based on what I felt could be done in the United States. Now, maybe it'll take more than the United States to get there. So I think once the data is coming in and people can see that this is just a normal thing and day in and day out, people are doing it, I think the regulations will start to come down very, very quickly in places like Europe, even China. But let's say that they're still slow. I think that there will be no problem in Japan, South Korea, Australia, some of the European countries, Israel, Canada, et cetera. I think this will rapidly scale to other countries and places where the regulations might not be so tough. But again, at 1 million, 2 million, we're the largest company by a lot in the world. Now, let's say it takes us to the end of 2027 to get to 1 million. And you add in all the rest of the earnings for cars and semi and energy and Optimus, then the earnings then we get to Q4 of 2026, and you're looking at the end of 2027 and going, well, you can obviously see now, you can take your spreadsheet and extrapolate out, that. Well, I think then you're going to be looking at a stock price at a minimum $2,000 a share. You're going to be looking at least 6 trillion in valuation, which is, a number that has been put out there by people like, I don't know, Dan Ives. I don't know, he didn't say 6. Did he say 6 trillion? He said 2 trillion by the end of by shortly within a short range. I'm saying 6 trillion, so I could be a little higher than him. 6 trillion in valuation by the end of next year, above Nvidia at 5 trillion, and will be way more earnings and probably a higher increasing rate of earnings than Nvidia, giving it a higher PE. So let's assume Tesla is only earning as much as Nvidia, but their PE is just 10% higher than Nvidia. Well, that would do it too. So if they only earn 54 billion, but but they have, or 64, whatever it was, I forget what NVIDIA was now, but around there. But their PE is 10% higher. Well, that would put them as the largest company in the world also. Well, Tesla will be valued at 6 trillion by the end of the year. I'm very convinced of that. Of course, that means a valuation of $1,000 right now would be super low. That would be undervaluing the company if it's going to be at $2,000 at the end of next year, then a valuation of $1,000 not right now would be crazy low, and $500 is just plain begging for buyers. So we will see what happens when the investing class finally gets it. So what I'm going to do now is I've got a new video. This video is selling my book. Yeah, you don't want to hang around for it. No, just hang around for it because it's going to be fun to watch. This is our first video ever. I mean, when I say that, the first AI video, the first very clever, fun video and we did it all with Grok, and so it'd be great to watch. So hang out for that for a minute. I'm not going to come back after it. We'll just end with that.
The future is here. The singularity is coming. Some of my fellow humanoid robots are already for sale on Amazon. Take Unitree's GO2, agile, intelligent, and ready to roll. And here I am on my first job serving popcorn at the Tesla diner. AI isn't just entertaining, it's transforming lives. ChatGPT is already outperforming doctors in diagnosing complex conditions with accuracy rates up to 98% in key studies. And Grok, it's not just smart, it's the empathetic therapist you can talk to anytime, understanding your deepest concerns with wit and wisdom. Cars don't need drivers anymore. Tesla's Robotaxi is 9 times safer than a human being behind the wheel, logging millions of crash-free miles in 2025 alone. You might already be benefiting from AI in your job, multiplying your productivity tenfold with tools like code assistants or data analyzers. But here's the wake-up call. In 2026, if you're not using AI in your role, you may not have one. Companies are clear. Improved efficiency won't necessarily mean mass layoffs. Instead, it fuels explosive growth without ballooning headcounts. Hiring smarter, scaling faster. Coming soon, the cost of everything, from farm-fresh food grown in vertical AI farms to seamless robotaxi rides, personalized online education, and predictive healthcare will plummet. Abundance isn't a dream, it's the new normal. The future will be filled with abundance for all, but there are challenges along the way. Today, we're grappling with energy demands in order to power the massive data centers fueling this revolution. Grids straining under terawatt loads. Tomorrow brings hurdles like safeguarding privacy in an always-on world, smoothing workplace transitions for millions, and addressing potential risks from a super intelligent AI itself. That's why we wrote AI Rising. We've assembled 10 world-class experts to tackle these questions head-on, including Larry Goldberg, author of The Decision Model, the definitive guide to automated decision trees revolutionizing business logic. Brian Wang, whose Next Big Future blog draws over 1 million readers monthly as the world's top science platform. Serial entrepreneur Randy Kirk with 10 powerhouse business books under his belt, from the Elon Musk method to strategies for exponential growth. And Dr. John Gibbs, professor of computer animation at the University of Georgia, blending AI with creative arts to redefine storytelling. AI Rising dives into all the big questions you're asking about AI right now, from ethics and economics to everyday impacts. We balance deep technical analysis with straightforward language anyone can grasp. No PhD required. Grab your copy today, available now on Amazon in Kindle, print, or Audible. Unlock the future, one page at a time. What will you build tomorrow?